I was worried about my wife, Shelley, who's the love of my life. And I turned to her right there and I said, are you going to be okay? Are you going to be okay without me? And she said, I'm fine. Don't worry. Let go. So with that, I did. And I breathed my last breath with great relief. And what the mushrooms seemed to be teaching me was that, yeah, I could be scared of dying because it can be a scary portal. I mean, dying, of course, we all know can be scary. That experience really helped me face what scares me about death and dying.
And now I'm going to go into host mode. All right. Welcome to season 4, episode 7 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. I'm your host and producer, Bob Cohen. I'm a dad, writer, teacher, and bluesman. I founded Ouroboros Story Hour in August of 2017. It began as a Boston-based underground psychedelic storytelling session for the local medicine community. Since then, Story Hour has evolved into an international multimedia story platform that explores the nooks and crannies of the human condition through the lens of personal experiences with non-ordinary reality. Our mission is to promote deep healing and radical acceptance of ourselves and others by sharing and witnessing people's stories. So a few reminders before we start. Ouroboros Story Hour is for educational purposes. We do not advocate the use of illegal substances, nor do we provide opportunities for people to obtain them. We are committed to delivering Ouroboros Story Hour content free of charge, but we need your support to sustain the effort. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, becoming a patron at patreon.com/storyhour, donating from $1 to $10 in lieu of a ticket to my Venmo at Bob J. Cohen, or to PayPal, paypal.me/Bob J. Cohen, or sponsor an episode. If you're joining us on the live stream, please say hi in the comment section and let us know where you're from. And of course, feel free to ask questions. If tonight's speakers inspire you to share your own story, we interview prospective storytellers on a rolling basis. Contact me on Facebook and Instagram and this is the @ Ouroboros Story Hour, all one word, or by email at ouroborosstoryhour@gmail.com. Tonight's featured storytellers are Liana Silvey from Spain, Marc-John Brown from Scotland, Dara Freire from Brazil, and Charley Wininger, who will be joining the call a little bit later on, from Brooklyn. So at this point of the show, I usually break the ice by telling a story or by talking about something that's come up for me. And I'm so delighted to have the opportunity to share storytelling space with the person who introduced me to Daime and my ayahuasca practice. So this story is going to be about the second time I drank ayahuasca with Dara Freire. As I was preparing for this, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about and how I wanted to frame this. And unlike a lot of people, I came to this very late in life. So I only started drinking ayahuasca in 2018. And before that, I'd had a couple of experiences with mushrooms. And before that, I was just your average suburban white guy. There was a reset in my life that required me to really look deeply inside myself to adjust to what happened. We had a major financial crisis, and there was we lived through probably about 10, 12 years of trauma. Toward the end, I actually almost committed suicide. I actually constructed a gallows in my garage. I'm a rock climber, so I know how to tie good knots. And I was on the ladder with the rope around my neck, and the only reason I didn't do it was because I didn't want my children to find me when they came home from school. And that's sort of like that, like in a lot of ways was the moment, like that was the reset in my life. That was like the moment where I said, you know, I want to live, like I have things to live for. But it took me from 2014 until 2018 to find medicine and to be able to bring that to bear to help me process the experiences I had with that big financial trauma starting in 2008. So the first time we drank was that I drank was these both of these experiences I'm going to talk about were took place in Western Massachusetts. So the first one was April 21st, and I had no idea what to expect. I was connected with the medicine community. I had some friends who thought very highly of Dara, and they said, "Come, this is going to be great." And they told me that, "Oh, her medicine's not very strong. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be hard for you." So I'm going in expecting this to be, actually not really knowing what to expect, but not expecting it to be overwhelming. And it was overwhelming. I spent the entire first ceremony, with my sleeping bag over my head, unable to get off the floor, having to ask people to get up to go to the bathroom. And one of the funny things about that experience was that I started this phase of my life as a devout materialist and a skeptic, and so I was sort of like aware that there was a contour to the ceremonies, and I was told that I would purge at some point. So, we kind of like we're into that part of the ceremony where people are purging. There's like the music sort of matches the moment. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I am not going to puke on cue. Because they're all fucking with my heads. They're like, I'm not joining a cult. I'm not going to do what they tell me when I'm supposed to do it. And I held it in. And the result of that, like I said, I just was completely, I spent the entire thing in the fetal position, smushed up against the wall, which you could maybe get away with in Shipibo ceremony, but Mbandame is an active practice. And so there's dancing and singing and getting up and getting down. And I really couldn't function. Like I couldn't get to my feet, and it was really grim. But as often happens in these things, for as miserable as the nights are, or as difficult, as challenging as they can be, and you'll see this like if you've ever been to a ceremony, like everybody glows in the morning, and it was like, wow, I didn't die, I survived this, right? Yay. And I felt brilliant inside, right? So I mean, I know the science and all that stuff, but from a spiritual point of view, it's just like there felt like this like little shift. So a month later, we're kind of into it was actually on Mother's Day weekend, I think. We're back in Western Massachusetts at a pop-up ceremony, and I decide that I'm going to sort of be a little more participate a little more with what was going on. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is that in the Mbandame ceremonies, there are 3 medicines that are used, and I couldn't deal with taking the other 2 medicines. So it's ayahuasca, hape, and sananga. So, so I was like, okay, I'm going to do these one at a time, right? So I drank the ayahuasca first time. Second time, being a materialist, I'm experimenting, so I want to know how each thing individually affects the experience. I resolved that I'm going to take the hape, which is a tobacco snuff that has some other substances in it, and the curandero will insufflate the substance up into your nose, like they use a device called the tepe, and it blows. She or they or he will blow the hape up your nose. I really like that. So in the second ceremony, I managed to do that. The hape is I find it very energizing. So I was able to get up and participate with the flow of the ceremony. I could sing, I could dance. I had this really crazy rebirth experience, and I tell another story about this, but it just was the most extraordinary. It was the most extraordinary thing. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm golden here, right? I got this, no problem. And we get to the part of the night where we're having our second cup of ayahuasca. I'm really excited. I'm feeling great. I want to be first online to get my to get my second cup. So I have my second cup, and I didn't understand that this sort of the process is kind of like stripping, going layer by layer by layer. So I thought I was like in a good place, and I didn't realize that as I peeled away that layer, that there was a big surprise waiting for me after the fact. And I got back to that state of overwhelm, and it was just crazy. So one of the interesting things about that ceremony in particular was that it was originally going to be a bunch of people that I knew from the medicine group that I was involved with. Only another group came because they lost their ayahuasca server at the last minute. So we're in this place out in Western Massachusetts. The room at best was comfortable for maybe 10 or 15 people. We had, I'm 30 people, 35 people. It was a lot of people in this really little space. So I'm overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated by all of the people that are in the room. And it's a group of people I don't know, and it's a group of people who are a whole lot more energetic, shall we say, than the people that I came with. They sort of like came, they came with like a whole different zeitgeist. And there's all this stuff going on, and I just got really overwhelmed. So I'm back up against the wall with my sleeping bag over my head, and I feel miserable. I'm nauseated, feverish, trying desperately to cope with all of what's going on. And I felt really unsafe because I was afraid that people were going to fall on me. So I thought to myself, I got to get the fuck out of here. Only I couldn't get to my feet. So what did I do? I crawled. So I crawled to the door. So there's all this music, the floors are shaking, and I'm trying to like get to the door. I only made it halfway out the door. So I'm half in the ceremonial space. I'm half out of the ceremonial space. I'm making it impossible for anybody else to get in or out. And I'm lying on the floor, and I was staring at a hardwood floor, and watching the patterns on the floor, and kind of moving, and it was kind of fascinating with this. So a person comes up to me, and they very gently, kind of tap me on the shoulder. Bob, you can't stay here. You got to move. You need help. You need help. Do you have to go to the bathroom? Can I take you back? And I'm like, this is. I was actually pretty surly. I think I was like, leave me the fuck alone. Just don't bother me. This is, I'm fucking pissed off. I mean, it's not safe in there. I don't want to be in there. It's not good. Leave me alone. So the second person comes, and they, we kind of go through this whole thing. And I look at them, and they go, well, you're in the middle of the doorway. And I look up at the person. I don't want to mention who it was, but very dear fellow. And I said, it was like he said, like, you're half in, you're half out. And I go, well, where else would I be? Because I'm half in my life and half out. This is metaphorically exactly where I'm supposed to be. Leave me the fuck alone. So then finally, Dara caught wind of what was going on, or she probably always knew what was going on, and was hoping that her helpers would move me along to a safe place. And I'll say this to you, Dara, because I've said it about you. She's a beautiful, wonderful person, but she is a strong woman, and she can, when she needs to, she in that space, she knows when to not take any nonsense. And so she said, you have to go. And she said, you have to go back to your place. You have to go back to your place. And there's no gainsaying Dara when she's firm. She's in control of things in that ceremonial space. And she very gently helped me get up, and brought me back to my place, set me down. And she said, this is your place. Stay here, and you will be safe. And in that moment, this really crazy thing happened. It's just, I trusted that Dara would keep me safe, so that that kind of like went without saying. But it also spoke to where I belonged in that moment, because really what I was half in a healing circle and half out. And she brought me back to the healing circle. And in that moment, I had this kind of like switch in my mind where I realized that I deserved to be healed. I deserve to be in a healing. I'm a human being. I deserve to be in this healing, loving space. And it made such a tremendous difference for me for the rest of the night. I mean, I didn't take the Sonanda still, but 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 it made I felt safe. And so I stretched out, and all that fear that I had kind of went away. And I was able to receive the love and the healing from that circle and from the medicine that I was not open to, and really not open to on the first time I tried it. And I'm gonna see if I can let's see what, yeah, I have this. So I'm going to share my screen for a second because this is sort of important. So I kind of like move into this third ceremony, which was in June. So it's like three in a row in 3 months. And we're in a different space, still unfamiliar people, but I'm still afraid. I did take Sananga that night, by the way. And I'm sort of like, kind of like falling back into that familiar scared shitless, I don't know if I belong here. This stuff is driving me crazy. And I don't really do this anymore, but I used to bring a notebook with me and write stuff down. So I grabbed my, I gotta get this. Come here, you. I went and I tore a couple of places, a couple of pages out of my out of my notebook, and you can see that I wrote this while I was under the influence of ayahuasca because it's virtually illegible. But I wrote this as just to remind myself my place in retreat and in triumph and in rest. And I've carried that. I take the book with me still. I have these pages that I can take out anytime. Anytime I want to, but I have that mindset now when I'm in ceremony. So I know that I belong in Healing Circle, and I know that I have a place, and I know that that place is for the scary stuff, for the amazing insights, and for those times when it's time to rest. Because I'm not exactly a young man, so staying up all till till daybreak is not something I've done in a really long time. So kind of like the way the shape of the ceremonies, they're sort of like toward the end. There's a meditative phase in it, and as the medicine sort of like working its way out of my body, and it became this. It became sort of like the I don't remember the words for this, but it became how I approach my medicine work in ceremony now. And I've been fortunate enough to go to many more ceremonies, and I've also started practicing with San Pedro and doing a vision class. And that sense of like belonging, the connections to the medicine, to the people in the circle, and to what lies outside of humanity, like it all comes, and it all is just. It keeps me coming back, and it keeps me feeling safe. And so I will say, Dara, thank you so much for helping me find my place. I'm grateful because I didn't know where I belonged and whether I belonged in anything, not much less, much less in a medicine circle. So thank you. So I'm gonna stop there. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, thank you. Spain. This is her second time sharing the story with Ouroboros Story Hour. Liana has experienced in expanded states of consciousness with the use of ayahuasca and ancestral remedies like bufo and combo, yopo, and iboga through microdosing. So in my notes, I have that she's a polymath, and she's a for real polymath. She's studied journalism, communication design, marketing, oratory, mythology, history, art, psychology, philosophy, Ayurveda, nutrition, energy healing, naturopathy, quantum physics, one of my favorites, and spirituality. She speaks 5 languages and has moved over 100 times. So my notes say that she's planning to talk about the integration of wisdom received through the self-awareness process with ancestral remedies. Liana, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for creating this space. Thank you for the encounter, and thank you for sharing your experience, for opening up your heart, because it's so magic. It's so magical. It's just like how the universe works. But I believe that it goes beyond the words that we can share here, because people are going to listen and they're going to connect, and it's going to affect also others. So this is like a wave that we are sharing, and to remind us that we are connected, and no matter how many lockdowns do we have to go through, we are all connected. So thank you so much. And it's funny because your story really touched me and it actually links with the experience that I had in my first ayahuasca session, and it was some years ago, about this time of the year. And those who have been going through experiences with ancestral remedies and expanded state of consciousness, you can start observing and hearing synchronizations and connections. But I would never have expected this. And last week, we have here in Ibiza a very, very, very amazing project, which is like we exchange. We don't use money, we exchange whatever we have. I can do acupuncture and you give me food. I have this massage therapy, then you can bring me some vegetables from your garden and things like that. So I saw this beautiful lady sharing these two um, necklaces or pendants. And I was like, oh my God, actually, this is exactly what I saw on my first ayahuasca session. And it's the Hunaku. It's like the yin and yang from the Mayas. And I was like, and I also saw the yin and yang. It's like, wow, I want to change this with you, and I bring you food and eggs from the garden and from the chickens. So I went to pick them up. And the funny thing is that she lives really close to my place, and I have the GPS on my phone. Literally, it's 10 minutes distance driving with my car, and I couldn't find it. I got lost. I called her. She's trying to explain me where I was supposed to be heading to, and you see the teepee and you see this, and I was like, oh, no, I don't see anything. No, the kilometer, whatever. And I was like, listen, I just recently moved here. I don't know nothing. I just followed the GPS. I got so like in a place that I was like, oh my God, I'm lost. How can it happen? And then I am arriving there finally. She sent me after an hour of a 10 minutes driving distance. And I see the pendants and I realize, oh my God, the first night of ayahuasca, I was laying on the mattress. I was calm, everything, but for me it was really peaceful. But I was like a feminine side. I felt like I hear, in that dreaming state, I hear me saying, oh my God, I was so scared. I couldn't find you. I was so scared. Like I've been looking for you for so long. I was so scared. And I hear the masculine embracing me, saying, but you know that is again, we always find each other. And in that moment, I could feel like we were like the yin and yang. And then the image that I saw was like going up, and I can see that everything is flat, and I see this sign. And from the center, one ray of light comes out and starts shining. And I see there are some points that are already enlightened or light up, and some points are still not. Well, that happened years ago. And it's funny how after years, at the same time of the year, I go to a situation where I'm going to pick up the same symbol. I connect with the same symbol, and I got the same energy of, oh my God, I was so lost. And every ayahuasca session, every other process that I had with ancestral remedies, even iboga, I always had the feeling that even though I couldn't decode exactly what I was receiving as information or what I was connecting with as information, that it was like this was the end. This was just like the origin, or it was the end of the story, and every other session was like going backwards in the story until last week. And I had that feeling that is weird because I recently moved to Ibiza and I moved everything, all my stuff. I have been traveling for many years. I have lived in many places, and it kind of felt like, okay, now it's for real. This is the base. Just for you to imagine, 2019, I was in over 30 countries. So bringing all my stuff here was really a process because, like you both said, that I couldn't find my place in life. That's why I arrived to ayahuasca. I was searching and searching in all what I could receive of information. I studied journalism because of that. I was researching everywhere, trying to find myself. And that was what the ayahuasca was showing me the very first day. I just couldn't realize it until now. And I kind of feel that that's what's happening to us, that we go through life and we are doing things, we are taking decisions, but we cannot really find ourselves in our own life. And that's why we feel like there has to be something more, because we start making decisions from the brain, from the mind, from what we see that is normal in our environment, but our heart moves and life, it moves because of the other reasons that the mind cannot encapsulate, so to say. And that flow of life that move us and keep us alive, like in your case, as like you say and you shared, and I have been also in that place of considering what am I doing here. We think we talk a lot about the healing of the body and the healing of mind, thoughts, but like you say, it's our onion in our multidimensional beings. The ones that are in the core, we cannot see them with the eyes, we cannot listen to them, but we can feel them. And that intuition or that energy flow, energy that we can connect with faith, we can connect with courage, we can connect with it's not, it goes beyond survival. It's like finding that reason why we keep coming back. It definitely, it's a journey, but the moment that we have that comprehension, oh, this is it, we are seeing another part of ourselves. We are closer to really connect and integrate our true essence, which is always there. We just were not aware, we couldn't see it. And that's nothing to be healed. For me, I feel that there was nothing broken of that. The reason why Liana is here, or the reason why I live my life and the decisions that I make, I couldn't understand them. And sometimes I was punishing myself because, oh, I should have done more, or I should have been achieving other things. Or I was questioning myself. And how crazy it is that one side of us is questioning our being. Was having recently a talk about the importance of trusting oneself, and that can connect us and align us with our true essence, because it's like otherwise we are in fight, and we think we are in fight with the others, with the outside, when we are fighting within us, because we don't really know the way. So I want to thank plant medicine because it always shows what it is already there. I really believe that when we drink a glass of ayahuasca, we are drinking our true selves. And the plant is just supporting us to see us and see how we live and see our true essence. And that, like you said, we all have a place here. We are fractals of the same miracle. But sometimes it can get really hard. So integrating our that wisdom, that information, it can even take years. Like for years, I was not like understanding many of the things that I was receiving. So when I hear people like, oh no, I do my process by myself at home. I do my sessions with mushrooms, or I do my sessions with DMT, synthetic things like I I I I okay, but I wouldn't do that because actually it is about integrating that wisdom in your daily life. Okay, so you connected with all this information now. What is the being transformed in your reality? And I'm saying this to myself all the time because it takes trust again. So in that soup of if there is like a recipe, but it shows us what it is. We feel it. We feel that vibe. We feel that love. We feel that community. We feel that peace. We go through other parts which are not so, but beyond that, we can see that this is also existing. And we go back to our daily life, and that's where really the retreat or the integration starts, and to apply that, to translate all that into experiences that are more aligned to the reason why we came here, brings the peace. And that can only be received, we can only give that to ourselves. We cannot wait or expect that anyone else is going to come with our peace, because it's already inside of us. And just for closing, I kind of have that dizzy moment after sharing all those experiences, because it's like, what if we are living in the other way? Like, what if we are already, and we don't have to become, because we are. We don't have to obtain any title. We don't need to achieve anything. That we can do. I mean, there's nothing wrong, but as far as it doesn't take well-being from our state, if it doesn't take our peace. And I have been working in marketing long enough to know that those who have known how the mind works have been taking a bit of advantage in the way of exposing and creating abundance for some only around the world. And I totally support those who create the spaces where people can feel that they are good enough already, that they are not even a material to be evaluated. We are not made of something that anyone can come to say, oh yes, you are already your best version, or you can over improve your no. We are already the ones we were waiting for. We are the love that we wanted to receive. And it takes a bit of a leap of faith. But the more that we are sharing these stories, I think we can encourage that no matter what, having this experience, it's a magical gift. And if anyone any moment have questions or have some thoughts, and that they know that they can find people around, that we are never alone, and we always have our place in this beautiful family. Thank you. Bob, you are
Yeah, no, I realized I was muted. My students are always telling me that. They're like, Professor, you're muted. So it's, it just happens. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. I had a couple of questions for you. So when we were all together before we kind of kicked things off, we were talking about how um, all of us are doing fewer and fewer ceremonies right now, if any, and how has that impacted your practice to not really, to not be doing group ceremonies?
So actually, I have found something very, very amazing, and actually, I am thankful for having received this, because I realized that it brought us all to a place where we have to stick or stay in the life that we have built consciously, a bit of it, and unconsciously a lot of it. We have created certain scenarios or dynamics or relationships in our life, with work, with the couple, with ourselves, especially with ourselves. And it was the moment where we have to face it, because we couldn't go anywhere else. So there were not so many distractions. Although then after the internet came a lot of things. So there are still a lot of distractions, but at a certain point, if we can focus on one side, it opened up a window where we can say, okay, microdosing consciously with integrations every week, with a nutrition plan, with breath work, with yoga, with several tools, you can actually stay in that reality and face it. Face what is around you. Face what is because it's a reflection of what is inside. So let's face it, and let's face all those things that for so long we were trying to, like, oh no, I want to uh, feel unconditional love, but not to this part of my life. This part of my life, I don't want to love it, and I'm gonna hide it. Or this trauma, or this potential. The most confrontational part that was also the potential. People are we are all really afraid to the unknown. And because we have been collecting a lot of beliefs and ideas of how things should be, and titles and security and characters and egos, and that have built our comfort zone. So even if we were in our own home, we were sticking up into the uncomfortable or the unknown, because we were like, oh my God, I didn't realize. So microdosing have helped to support the now possibility of traveling or gathering together, but still inside our daily life, inside our routines, to have that support in several languages. We can talk about it, but in like chemistry of the body, to support the detox, to support to let go, rearrange the organs, relax, and support the awareness, the senses. And in that place where we are not investing so much energy to sustain something that is not aligned with ourselves, we can stop observing with so much like, oh my God, and demand and guilt. And no, just observe. So people are not being so triggered. They can start opening up their hearts again, feel more empathy, have conversations where we are not trying to impose, instead of we are trying to connect, and not to like, like trying to more understand than being understood. So it's supporting a lot. And actually, I am really thankful, because it also arrived at a certain point of my life where I decided to take a leap of faith in myself. And it connected me with something that I find is really important, and it was to connect with all the professionals around the world, all the facilitators around the world, because they don't have to come to my retreat because of the way that I no. If you are in Netherlands and there are facilitators already there, so go to them. It's closer, and we can connect in a network from totally humility. We are all doing the best that we can. But the people, what we really need beyond the medicine, because psychedelics and mushrooms and cannabis and ayahuasca, even there is a lot around the world. What we really need is the community. We really need is that space, like Bob, you were mentioning, and I was so lost, I couldn't find. There's that space in our own lives, and that we need the others. We need the mirrors that we can see each other, our beauty, and share those experiences. It goes beyond the physical things that what we can see. It's the feeling. It's always the feeling. So I have been really blessed, and I collaborate with people in Portugal, in Spain, in several places like Barcelona, Madrid, Alicante, working people with in Sweden, in the UK, in Argentina, in Colombia, Peru, Costa Rica, Mexico, the States. I can see that there is a network of people supporting others, and that's what we really need. We don't need gurus. We have our own wisdom inside, but we really need mentors, because we have forgotten how it is to really embrace ourselves beyond whatever, and to become unconditional to our own selves. That will bring us the sovereignty over our lives and the capacity to overcome any limiting belief, because we are actually already creating life. Now we are just one thought away to become conscious creators, and that we are unstoppable. We have the life, the force of life, and we can do amazing things from our hearts. And I believe that that's what we all really want in the very end, no matter where we are, no matter how many studies we have or how much we make per month, or status situation or family situation. We all are here for the same, which is to give our hearts, to give and receive love, to let love flow through us. So thank you, thank you.
Wow, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm glad you talked about microdosing, because Liana's a big advocate of microdosing. So I wanted to make sure that you talked a little bit about that. And that point about community is so spot on. I mean, a year ago, I could not imagine doing an Ouroboros story hour where we had somebody from Ibiza, from Sao Paulo, from Scotland, and from Brooklyn, while I'm here in Massachusetts, all at the same time. And it's kind of allowed the pandemic has sort of like opened that piece up for those of us in this community to connect in ways that we really couldn't before. Otherwise we had to go to conferences, right? And then that limits who you can connect with, because you have to have money to go to the conferences, and you have to have letters after your name and all that other silly stuff. So we just heard from Liana Silvey, who's calling from.
I'm sorry. Before I want to mention just one last thing before
Sure.
about the place. Maybe also for people who are listening, maybe it is also the thing about what you say about your place in the retreat.
Yeah.
There was also another step in the process, my personal process, where I was confronted to a moment where I was laying in the mattress, drinking ayahuasca and going through all my things, good and bad. Yeah. And I was confronted at a point where I was like, do you still want to stay in the mattress? Do you really want to stay there still? Or you want to step out of the mattress and hold spaces for others so they can also have the opportunity to go through this. And this is also in life. I think in life we have much more capacity to support each other and to be present for others. So I will encourage everyone to do that as well.
Brilliant.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So thanks for tuning in. Welcome to season 4, episode 7 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. I'm your host, Bob Cohen. With us tonight are Liana, from whom we just heard, Mark Brown from Scotland, Dara Freire from Brazil, and Charley Wininger from Brooklyn. Charley's just joined the call, actually. If you're joining us via live stream, please say hi in the comment section and let us know where you're from. And of course, feel free to ask questions. We're committed to delivering Ouroboros Story Hour content free of charge, but we need your financial support to sustain the effort. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, become a patron at patreon.com/storyhour, or donate from $1 to $10 to live a ticket, to Venmo at Bob J. Cohen, or PayPal at paypal.me/Bob J. Cohen. If tonight's speakers inspire you to share your own story, we interview prospective speakers on a rolling basis. Please contact me at Facebook and Instagram at Ouroboros Story Hour, or by email at ouroborosstoryhour@gmail.com. Next up is Marc-John Brown. He's joining us from Scotland. You didn't tell me what town you're from. Maybe you'll mention that. Mark is a shamanic coach and apprentice ayahuasquero under Master Shipibo healer Noé Romero Lopez of the Peruvian Amazon jungle. He teaches modern people how to answer their shamanic calling in ways that are ethical, responsible, regenerative, and steeped in intercultural awareness. He's also a practicing interpreter and translator, carrying the wisdom and words of the Amazon jungle's indigenous populations directly to the wider world for ever-increasing levels of impact. He's getting ready to begin a master's degree in anthropology in September 2021. Mark's biggest mission is to take the voices of both the indigenous populations, their earth-based wisdom traditions, and their healing plants to all new levels of gravitas. So Mark plans to talk about his experiences as a shamanic coach and apprentice ayahuasquero. So Mark, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wunderbar. Wonderful. Let me just take a moment to actually arrive, right? Awesome to be in this space with you all. Thank you for having me. In answer to your question, my friend, I'm currently based out of Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland, which kind of feels a little bit strange, but that's what COVID brought us. I was in the process of emigrating to Peru, and I was living with my maestro in the jungle of Peru, preparing the nest for my native Peruvian wife to come across from Scotland with our daughter. But yeah, we ran a plant medicine retreat in Peru in February 2020, and then my wife came back across here with my daughter, and I stayed over to continue learning with my maestro with the plants. And well, lo and behold, we found we were pregnant with our second child. And my wife was back in Edinburgh, and COVID happened, and lockdown happened, and the state of emergency in Peru happened. And and I was all of a sudden plugged into this WhatsApp group of, 17 British nationals, all of whom were stuck in the jungle. And me being the interpreter that I am, and with the language skills that I have, I was the only person who was able to pull off what we pulled off. I think it was pretty amazing to arrange, literally go from flight school to flight school, searching for private pilots to take us on a private jet from the jungle to Lima to be repatriated on one of the repatriation flights. So currently I'm in Edinburgh, happily fathering my now 2 children, and my son was born 4 months ago. And yeah, we will be moving to Kent in September, because in September that's when I start my master's degree in anthropology. at the University of Kent. So yeah, and as you said, it is most important to me to carry the baton of tradition without being a purist. I'm a traditionalist, but not a purist, right? I believe in the evolution of what would a living indigenous culture be if it wasn't living and able to evolve and change and adapt with time, right? But I am most certainly, from that perspective, a traditionalist, and I walk shoulder to shoulder with the indigenous populations and help. It is my mission, really, to help the world comprehend the wisdom of plants in the way that the indigenous populations do, to such a level of depth that the indigenous populations do. Because I really believe that, I really feel it in my being that in marrying this connection to not just to the plants, but to the consciousness of nature in general, in marrying this with modern society's drive for ordem e progresso, as they say in Brazil, right? If we can marry, I really believe in the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, and if we can really, as the kind of big brother, so to speak, as the kind of modern driver, as the eagle that we are, bring the condor under our wing so we can fly together, always consulting with this dude over here, like, hey, are we doing okay? Is this good? Like, yeah, to allow their wisdom to guide our drive and our progress. I really believe that this is where the world will be truly, truly harmonious. And so the story that I'm here to tell this evening is the very root of this mission being born in my life. And it happened on the, by the way, before I go into this, I just want to say that Liana, I absolutely loved listening to you, tuning into your energy, and I felt myself welling up and a tear or two coming to my eye on a couple of occasions with some things that you said. They really struck a chord with me, and I'm sure the same will happen also with Dara and with Charley when they come on. But it did really give me this sensation of just really wanting to sit with a cup of cacao and be sitting around the fire with you, like I wish we could all just have a fire right now and be sitting around it, sharing this conversation, right? And we could still stream it to the world, but it would be nice to have it in person and just have a fire, grandfather fire there accompanying us, keeping us warm, and mama cacao in the hand. Yeah, and also to Liana as well, like you mentioned collaborating with people around the world. We were very, very, very close to collaborating, you and I don't know if you remember, very close. It didn't work at that time, but it will happen sometime, I'm very sure. Anyway, to my story. How was this mission born inside of me? And I can feel myself welling up because it's purpose, it's life mission. Yeah. So I've been on this path for 12 years, drinking rather copious amounts of ayahuasca over quite a long period of time, and frequenting also with the medicine that is Huachumita, San Pedro, and in 2011 was really the first time that the actual consciousness of the plant was like knocking at my door, like, hey, hey, you are here as an ally for me. I want to work through you to help the world. And you hear these stories a lot. People get the calling, right? People hear the call, and man, I did not answer the call until 18 months ago, like 2019. right? It took me a long time and lots of medicine for me to answer my call, or her calling, not my calling. Um, and when I finally answered the calling, and I went to live with my maestro in the jungle, maybe November 2000, and I'm losing track of time, November 2019. When it came time, actually, my initiation, my time to actually be initiated by my maestro, Shipibo master healer, Noé Romeo Lopez, that actual moment didn't happen until March 2021, right? So my official initiation and what you call connection ceremony in the Shipibo tradition, you are ayahuasca, the consciousness of ayahuasca diagnoses you, well, not diagnoses you, recetar, how do I say that in English again? Prescribes you master plants, right? Specifically for you to be allied with on your path of ayahuasca healing. And the spirits of these master plants will come, as they do when I hold ceremony, they will come and help you to heal, to facilitate the healing of people inside your ceremony. So when you move into initiation, when you are initiated on the path of Shipibo healing, you go through your connection ceremony where you are connected and vinculated and partnered with your master plant spirits. And woo, this ceremony changed my life. My connection ceremony changed my world upside down. Why? And this is the root. This is the very root of my life mission now. This is why I am doing what I'm doing in my life now. This is why I'm about to study the master's in anthropology. This is why my mission is this. So, I mean, I have multiple master plant spirits, and of course, for anybody who knows about the path of ayahuasca, curanderismo, specifically Shipibo, curanderismo, vegetalismo, you know that you can diet. The way that you create a strong relationship with these plants is by doing the diet, is by dieting with them. You diet with them and you connect to their consciousness and allow them to invite them to work with you. So I had done that, and then came my initiation where I was brought into the connection ceremony. And one of the master plants, so every master plant, like the plant itself, is kind of like a vehicle or a portal through which the spirit is able to come, right? That's how the spirit comes. The plant itself is, yeah, it's like the portal for the spirit to come to you, yeah. And one of the spirits, my master plant spirits, is the anaconda. Oh, actually, I have my pipe. I can show you my pipe. Yes, so my pipe is in the shape of my master plant, anacondita. In Shipibo, Jonin. So I was being connected with my maestro. I'm sure the experienced people on the call know that when you talk with indigenous people, they are generally people of very few words, but lots of wisdom. And my maestro told me, yeah, this is your connection ceremony. We're going to connect you with your master plants. And I speak a basic level of Shipibo, so I have the key words. And so when my maestro is singing the medicine songs to me, the Icaros, I'm able to understand some of the words that are being sung and the spirits that are being awoken, right? And I didn't know, he didn't say, okay, now I'm going to connect you with this spirit. Now I'm going to connect you with this spirit. No, he just began to make the connection with me. So he was singing me the Icaros to connect me with my spirits, and I heard the word Jonin, Jonin Waste, which is the actual plant. Waste in Spanish is piripi, in Shipibo Waste. I could hear this word, and as in the very moment that I heard this word, the spirit of the anaconda woke up inside my body. From my toes all the way up through my head. And I have to admit that, you know, in the very initial split second, I was terrified. I was just like, whoa, whoa. And then I just centered myself with the use of breath and remembered, okay, yes, I'm connecting, okay, and allowed this connection to happen. And it was in that moment that I truly was able to comprehend the meaning of singing up the plants, of singing the plants awake. I'd heard it. I could talk all day about it. I could talk easily. You know, I could talk about this concept, which actually, without me even realizing it, was quite abstract to me. Why? Because I hadn't really lived it truly in the flesh yet. But in that moment, my goodness, did I live it in every cell of my body. And they say that knowledge becomes wisdom when it is embodied, right? So there my knowledge became wisdom. And so we got through this part, and I was connected and vinculated with Johnny, and hey, bless him. I mean, beautiful spirit. Gets into every little corner, you know, gets into every little corner. Traumas, conditioning, neuroticism, nothing escapes him. He gets in there and pulls it out. We got through this part, and then I moved into another part of my journey, you know, and the consciousness of ayahuasca began to talk to me. And she was actually like, it was as if like, you know, this energy of kind of like celebrating, you know, like the Vikings at their big table of Valhalla or whatever big table they drink at with their beers, and like, wow, you know, celebrating this energy, perhaps not as masculine, I guess, as that image that I just gave, but with a similar energy of like celebration. And yeah, ayahuasca was there, like, you know, celebrating and congratulating me. You know, ayahuasca was congratulating me for finally answering the call in March. This was March 2021, after so many years of dancing with her. Finally, she was congratulating me for answering the call. But as soon as the congratulations were done and over, as soon as this part had passed, and she was celebrating me and thanking me, and she said, but here is a new chapter for you. Here is a new calling for you. Like, what? I've only just answered this calling now, right? Like, what the heck? You giving me another task? Okay, I'm listening. And she basically said, yeah, you have great communication skills. This is one of your gifts in life. You can communicate in multiple languages and in a convincing and influential way. People like to listen to you. Go out into the world and carry our voice, carry the knowledge that you have gained in this ceremony. Plant spirit connection, singing to the plants, bringing their consciousness alive through song. Take that and communicate it to the world. So go and do what you need to do. Do what the modern world requires of you to believe you. Do postgraduate studies. Go and do some postgraduate studies. Put on this costume that the modern world needs you to put on. so that you can effectively deliver our message to the world. I said, okay, I'm a qualified interpreter and translator, but the process of qualifying as an interpreter and translator was not through a university degree. So I don't have an undergraduate degree per se. The way that I qualified as an interpreter and translator was very focused, technical qualification, the UK's benchmark qualification for, quality recognized interpretation and translation, but it's not an undergraduate degree, And I was like, yeah, how's that going to happen? How am I going to get into postgraduate studies if I don't have an undergraduate degree? I don't know. Like, okay, I'm listening to you, but I it's kind of maybe difficult, And then when I managed to push my way through the state of emergency in Peru and took 17 British nationals with me on a private jet from the jungle to Lima and got the repatriation flight and came home to my pregnant wife and my daughter. And just like maybe at that point, I started to have a radio show where I was just talking about ayahuasca and shamanism and, well, yeah, shamanism from all over the world as well. Just about a month and a half, 2 months later, I'm just on YouTube and like, the adverts on YouTube popping up, bam, 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 bam. And then all of a sudden, poof, this advert for postgraduate studies at the University of Kent, Masters in Ethnobotany, Masters in Anthropology popped up. I said, okay, let me just try this. Poof, apply. I applied for it. And my life experience, having traveled all around the world, spent time in the jungle of Malaysia and Korea and the Amazon jungle. And, this is what gave me the green ticket to be accepted for this master's degree. And so it begins in September. And every ceremony that I do, it seems that the anthropology master's is just laying a bit of a foundation. And then we're going to go down the route of doctorate, PhD in ethnobotany. And this is how my mission in life came, thanks to the plants. My mission to carry the voice and wisdom of the indigenous populations and the voice of their healing plants to the world, to keep alive this intrinsic connection which the modern world has almost lost, almost pushed itself to lose with the consciousness of nature, with the consciousness of the divine, if you want to call it the divine, because the divine is just nature, right? That, my friends, is my story for this evening, and I hope that you enjoyed it.
Thanks so much, Mark. That's wonderful. So thanks for tuning in. Welcome to season 4 of Ouroboros Story Hour, episode 7. I'm your host, Bob Cohen. With us tonight are Liana, Silvey, Marc-John, Dara, Freire, and Charley Wininger. So far we've heard from Liana and from Marc, and we're getting ready to introduce Dara. So if you're just joining us via live stream, please say hi in the comments section and let us know where you're from. And of course, feel free to ask questions. We're committed to delivering Ouroboros Story Hour content free of charge, but we need your financial support to sustain the effort. I figured out I'm digging in probably about $250 a month out of my pocket to run this project. So any help would be greatly appreciated. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can become a patron at patreon.com/storyhour. You can donate $1 to $10 in lieu of a ticket to Venmo at Bob J. Cohen, or PayPal, paypal.me/Bob J. Cohen. If tonight's speakers inspire you to share your own story, we interview prospective speakers on a rolling basis. Contact me at Facebook or Instagram at Ouroboros Story Hour, or by email at ouroborosstoryhour@gmail.com. Up next is Dara Freire. So I mentioned this earlier in the evening. Dara is very special to me. She introduced me to medicine practice, and I greatly admire her. I have I have love for her. She's an amazing person. So she's been an Umbanda practitioner since she was a child. In the last 16 years, Dara has studied and trained at the Umbanda Temple of, I'm sorry, I'm going to murder the Portuguese, but São Sebastião, the TUSS, where she received initiations from the Umbandime tradition, developing her spiritual work and extending it throughout the US in the last 6 years. And most recently, she has expanded her work to Europe and Canada. She's also spent time in the Amazon with the native communities, gaining more knowledge and specializing in the study of sacred medicines of the forest. She's an actress and has been studying Brazilian cultural movements, rhythms, dances, mainly with the tradition of Umbanda, where she is also a Corumbera, ceremonial drummer of the Atabaque, I think it's drum for the Orisha divinities. She's an amazing drummer. Of tonight's story, Dara plans to talk about her trajectory and how she sees the approaches related to the use of entheogens today. So Dara, it's all you.
First, I want to say thank you, Bob. You are the reason to me to be here tonight. I took a little while to accept that invitation because I always think my English is not so good. And this is the reason that I am here, because I always said to you guys, practice what you are learning. So I'm here to share a little bit. Of course, I'm going to do some mistakes, but it's from my heart. So I'm going to explain a little bit about my trajectory inside the spiritual movement, because that's the side I know about the medicines, but this has been opened on other doors. I'm going to talk a little later about that too. So I born in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. And since I was a child, my mom brought me to participate in the Umbanda ceremonies, where we develop our mediumship and learn how to connect with the spirits from nature, the orishas. That tradition, born here in Brazil, has 113 years probably, and the roots of this come from Africa. And I was listening everybody talking a little bit about their experience, and we are all connected. That's true. Because if we are here tonight, it's because something touched us to be aligned in that way, to share and, listen and see the other as us too. That's my impression I have here. So I stay inside that tradition till I have like 14 years. And then I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna see the world and meet people and try substance and have my human experience. I'm so tired to, follow things I really don't know what is it. I know it's magical and touch me, but I want to have my experience. And that's why I can be here today sharing too, because everything that I went through was through my experience. And then during 6 years, that time I moved to live alone in São Paulo. I was like 17, 18 years old, and I stayed there 12 years. And it was a big transition moment in my life too. So I started to party and went in many places, met many people, but I was very aligned in my feelings with them. That's why I respect, all the paths, all the people, all the experienced people have in that time life, in that moment, because this is so important to them. And some people will find the medicines or the spiritual path to reconnect themselves with their essence, but they will be around us, And this has happened since I started to do these like ceremonies around the world too.
Sounds like we have you back. No.
Is that now? No?
Good. Yeah, I got you.
Yes, now it's
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
computers, technology, spirituality, that's what happens. So fine. So I was saying that after that first experience with 16 years, I feel I think, the most profound experience I did in my life. And this turned on something in my heart and my brain, and I start to, wow, exist life, exist something different than I believe this is maybe, because I don't know, it's something I'm looking for to myself. And then I start to change that other side, I was, to know a little more about that process, to connect with the spiritual, to learn from a people. Like I have a great teacher. He's not like professor in university, not like something like that, but he has a lot of knowledge. He's channel, and through him, I receive the most beautiful and the most hard words during, my studies with him. So his name is Pai Adolfo. I will ask the permission to say his name because he's so important to me and for many people now, because through him, through his lesson and his teachings, I'm here today, talk with you guys. And took 10 years to be ready to get out from my temple and accept that thing. I don't know if it's like a mission or something I need to rescue in that life, who knows? Because I didn't speak any English in that time, and was like 6 years ago. And I received that invitation to travel with my godmother and godfather, Fabiana and David. They are from Amazon, from Florida Jurema. It's a community there. And they invited to come Dara, because we studied with the same teacher, and I am that play that instrument, the atabaque drum, which before the ceremony was the first thing connect me with the spiritual, because this has the power to call that spirit to come, and where, through the mediumship process, we receive lessons and, in that way. So the medicine was for me something else, but a lot, and now it's almost everything. Because it was through this, like I can say, like the medicine make quickly changes in my life. If I'm not found that in that moment, I don't know if I was here, where I could be. And then I traveled with them, and during 2 years we stayed like traveling 3 months, during doing like a journey, sharing that experience USA. And then I choose to be there by myself without any English. And I say, okay, of course, with instructions from my teacher here from Brazil. He said, Dara, it's our path. That's what you need to go. I like, what? United States without English, left my family, left everybody here. I can't do that. It's not for me. I don't know. So I worked like during these 10 years, 5 years was just to accept the way I need to do my things, And it's funny how I saw now in that moment people buying things by internet and say, I'm a shaman. I say, wow, congratulations, because for me it was so hard to accept, to take care, to have whole life on my hands and sharing experience. And of course, I believe that I am whole, just a support, because each people has their energy, their spirituality. They just need to connect with them. And then I start my journey in 2014 by myself. And I stayed like 2 months in Florida after that Brazilian family travel with a very nice friend who hosts me there. And she speaks like Spanish, Portuñol, and her husband just English. So I was there like communicate just with her. And then I said, okay, if I want to learn that language, I need to get out from here and just go. So all my movement is all in that way. Go and do, trust and do. This it will happen, because that's your way to do it. Maybe people have another's, but mine is that Dara, go to do this, go to do this. And I left her home with so much gratitude I have for her and her family to we're still friends. And I started to do these small ceremonies with groups. I remember that in the first moment, I didn't understand what the people was saying to me, but I just say, and I like received that messages, sent to my guides, to my spiritual part to take care of this and support me as well. And then little by little, I started to understand what they was saying, but I didn't speak nothing. And then I kind of, understand and I could listen better. And once I was in Massachusetts, was before I met you, Bob, during a ceremony, and I invited a friend. I usually to have friends to help me who speak a little Portuguese or we can barely communicate. And this day I was alone without my two sisters who always support me. And then I invited another friend to come to help me. And 15 minutes before we started the ceremony, I was inside a TP with 12 people, and I received a message in my cell phone that I'm not going. And I say, okay. And then I had to look to that people, the fire there in the center of our group. And I feel blessed. I say, okay, Dara, go, was always in that way. How will be different now? And then I start to communicate. Hello, hi, Dara, Brazil, blah, blah, blah. And then start little by little doing, and they start to just smooth, like come natural. And I did that ceremony. From there, I never stopped, till next year because of the moment we are right now. And through this journey, I don't see myself as a teacher, master, shaman, I'm a pretty student, and that's the way I want to be my whole life, because this will always bring me opportunity to learn more and more and more. And this year, because last year to now has been 1 year, I am at home here in Brazil. I can't get out from here because the airports are closed to travel. Brazil receives people, but we can't go. Was a moment to me to realize that, how important is everything I could participate and share during these past 6 years with my brothers and sisters, how I learned with each one, including you, Bob. I remember you the first time I met you. And that time my English was a little bad still. And that's why people say, Dara is nervous. Go to your place. But it wasn't what I know to do in that moment. I knew to do in that moment. So, and through these travelings, like I met many people who never sit with the medicine, was their first time, and how I feel blessed to welcome them, to, receive that teacher inside ourselves, because I have here my spiritual teacher, but, the medicines are the most incredible thing I could found. And how powerful is it, And now, has been like a few weeks ago, I started to watch some videos. I received some invitations to listen teachers from university talking about the medicine. And I went in the room to listen to them. And I started to see, wow, I did the opposite thing. They was there talking about the chemical part, how the things work, physical things. And for me, this don't make any sense. Maybe can have a little sense, but I don't want to lose that essence, I have inside my heart, the connections I did with the spirits and the lessons I received from a very, very simple people who has more knowledge than, other people I met, and with like very humble and with few words, like Mark said, they say just few words, this and that. Then this is a whole history you need to figure out. And I believe that the medicine connect me with that path, that people, because this is part of me. I believe that we choose to do where we were born, the family we're gonna born, the things we're gonna do on life. People found this earlier, and people take a little while, and people never will found it. And we don't have like a recipe. Do that, do that, do that, do that, and everything will be ready. This we build every day. We need to like be open and learn from each lesson. Look now where we are. The thing I never learned to do was to be at home, and I needed to learn during this year here. And in respect of my community, my group, for you guys, for our family here, we are not doing any ceremony, but we are practicing. And that's the hardest. It has been 1 year, I'm doing that integration, that always you guys after the things call me, Dara, I'm feeling that and that. So it's a process. Now, today, I can feel like that I'm connecting each part of myself, understand more and more the multidimensional existence of each people, how we are different, how we don't need to change people, we don't need to do nothing, we just need to be open to receive the people in the way they are, and they will find the thing which will turn that key we all here feel, in that way. So just to add that, I'm trying to study. I say, okay, I have 10 years ago, I started to do undergraduation. Here in Brazil, we call graduation, it's not under. But I stopped it because I had a problem and I was need to stop in that moment. And this year, I chose to come back. And then I'm looking for a course. When Mark was saying about that, I think the same thing. Wow, I have a long journey, how I can explain to them, because they will ask me to come back to the college if I went there anywhere, But the same way, I believe in my guidance, and I know when is the right time, this will happen. And this academic part is very important because that's clothes we wear, to be seen. But I never will change the way I think, because this is my essence, and I know I don't need to change this. And here in Brazil, I have my house, my family, my temple, and where I can celebrate, because that's what my tradition teach us, and that's what I teach you guys to and share with you guys the way I could. And I want to always be open to receive new traditions, new information, to filter this through my heart and see what is, makes sense, what not. Of course, because I had that background in my young age, I know things I never will do. So I have tried another plant medicines too, but others, I'm not open in that time in life, because I have a lot to learn and integrate from that ones I am studying profound, and never will be done with that. I don't want to be like a spiritual tourist, doing many different things without touch that essence of each plant and how many things they can bring to us. And Umbanda disease, celebration, trust, guidance, and that's why I am here tonight, to say thank you, Bob, for trust and to open your work, your new world too, to receive and listen people sharing their experience. Like I said, we don't exist bad and good ones. It's each one, and each one is part of a max mechanism. And during this time, this is another thing great. I was learning a little bit about lucid projection, and I have the opportunity to be USA from home, many times dreaming, connect with people there, helping people, many like simple things. If we start to explain, this will lose the true essence of everything. So I believe that everything has had that, I can say that, purpose to happens and the right time too. And I believe in the right time, I'm gonna be on the road again, sharing, more and more because I learned a lot and learn it more and more because I'm an eternal student too. And that's what was a little bit about what I shared today with you guys. Thank you so much.
Welcome to season 4, episode 7 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. I'm your host, Bob Cohen. With us tonight are Liana Silvey, Mark Brown, Dara Freire, from whom we just heard, and then up next is going to be our Charley Wininger. So if you're just joining us via live stream, please say hi in the comment section and let us know where you're from, and of course, ask questions. We're committed to delivering Ouroboros Story Hour content free of charge, but we need your financial support to sustain the effort. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, become a patron at patreon.com/storyhour, donate $1 to $10 in lieu of a ticket to Venmo at Bob J. Cohen or PayPal at paypal.me/Bob J. Cohen. And you can also sponsor an episode. If tonight's speakers inspire you to share your own story, we interview prospective speakers on a rolling basis. Contact me on Facebook or Instagram at Ouroboros Story Hour. So that's the ampersand symbol, the at symbol, or by email at ouroborosstoryhour@gmail.com. Up next is Charley Wininger, who is joining us from Brooklyn. Yeah, he has been a psychotherapist for the past 30 years, an unrepentant hippie. He's been a psychonaut for the past 50 years. His book, Listening to Ecstasy, The Transformative Power of MDMA, chronicles the exotic adventures he and his wife, Charley, have undertaken during this extraordinary psychedelic renaissance. So Charley plans to share one of those adventures with us tonight, or maybe more. Just a quick side note about Charley. We met at Horizons, at a place where people with letters after their name go right. We met at the Horizons Perspectives on Psychedelics conference, not last year because it was canceled, but the year before. We had lunch together, and he left a big impression with me. I don't know if I did on him, but he's really cool guy. I love chatting with him, and he was talking about his work as a writer, and it was really quite fascinating. And I guess that he runs an open house dinner thing around Christmas time in Brooklyn. So if you're in the in crowd and you're in Brooklyn, I think maybe we can go. I'm hoping to get there eventually. I have family in New York, so I do get there. So Charley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me on. And yes, my wife Shelley and I host these potluck dinners for the psychedelic community here in our home in Brooklyn every December. So you're all invited. Today, I want to talk about psychedelics and death and dying. I have learned that death is a tripped out teacher. And I have 3 brief tales to share with you about this. The first is an LSD experience I had probably 15 years ago or so. And, you know, there's an old thing in the sense in the community. This goes back way long time ago. Is that when you're tripping on LSD, don't look in the mirror because people can sometimes freak out if they see themselves in the mirror. But by that time, I had been an experienced tripper, and I wanted to do that. And it was towards the end of the trip. And even though it was 15 years ago, still at that stage of my life as now, the medicines, they take something out of me temporarily. They're a little hard on my body. I need to replenish myself afterwards. So it was towards the end of this LSD experience, and I was feeling delightful, but also tired. And I said, I want to take a look at myself in the mirror. Well, what I saw was a version of me in my 80s. And I was 55 at the time. I'm 71 now. But it looked like I was in my 80s when I looked at myself. I could almost see through my skin, my face. I was drawn and pale, and you could see every vein, or so it seemed. And I was looking at the much older version of myself right in the face. And not much beyond that, my death. And I was overwhelmed with a sense of sadness because I was really facing my old age and my mortality at that moment. And the sadness was like, I love being alive. I love it here. I don't want it to end. And when I do something like a medicine, like LSD or another medicine, it just makes me feel all the more so of that. These medicines make me feel alive only more so, and make me realize how much there will be to lose when I lose this life, regardless of what's beyond it. And so I was just very sad. But it was a poignant sadness. It was a sadness tinged with joy, because it helped me realize at that time, more than I had realized up until that moment, how much I was in love with being alive, how much I was in love with this life. So that's the first tale I want to just convey. The second one I want to tell you and share with you is with an experience with psilocybin. And this goes back to 1995. My dad died in September of 1994. A year later, September 1995, I decided to have an intentional and spiritual, if I could, reach a level of spirituality experience, and to use the medicines to do so. You have to understand that before that time, I had really only used the medicines for recreational purposes. But this was a year after my father died. I wanted to be close to him, and I wanted to be close to, because I missed him very, very, very dearly. And I still do. And I wanted to be close to something about death and dying. I wanted some insight into it. So for the first time, I did a medicine with that intention. And so I did, I used psilocybin mushrooms. I had a pretty potent stash. And I did something that I've never done before and I've never done since. I took 2 grams of pretty pretty potent psilocybin mushrooms. I was at home alone, by the way. That was my setting. And I took 2 grams and ingested them and set my intention. And usually for me, it takes about an hour, even as much as an hour and a half for a medicine to hit me because my metabolism's pretty slow. On purpose, for the first time ever and for the last time, I then 20 minutes later took a second dose of 3 grams. So within an hour or so, the first dose hit, this first dose of 2 grams. And it was what I love and expect with psilocybin mushrooms and all these beautiful patterns and geometric forms and a lovely feeling in my body and in my mind. And I could look up into the light in my room and see all these patterns, and I could close my eyes, and the closed-eyed visuals I have on psilocybin are unlike, they're the most glorious experiences of color and form that I have ever experienced in my life whenever I do the mushrooms. And also all that was beautiful. And then the second dose hit. And I found myself on my back, on my bed, like this, and having a rush and what I could only call a full body orgasm. And before I knew it, I was no longer on this planet. I was somewhere between Earth and Mars. I don't know where I was, but I wasn't on this planet. And I realized that what was back down there on Earth, on that bed, was Charley, his body, his personality, but that's not where I was now. I was somewhere in outer space, and I had dropped my body and my personality, and I realized, oh, this is what happens when one dies. The body's gone, the personality's gone, and what's left is what I was experiencing now. And it was a glorious feeling. It was quite gorgeous, and I had the sense that everything around me in space was alive, and that everything was conscious, and I could sense the atoms or protons or photons or whatever they were around me, and they all had consciousness, and all the knowledge of the universe seemed like it was available to me. I didn't want to access any particular piece of knowledge because I didn't need to. I had no sense of will or ego in any way, or no desire, no sense of wanting or needing anything. But I did have a sense that if I wanted to learn about whatever, it was all available to me. An old teacher of mine, Ramdas, tells of somebody else who was a channeler who taught him that death is like, dying is like taking off an old shoe. And that's the sense I had. And what the mushrooms seemed to be teaching me was that, yeah, I could be scared of dying because it can be a scary portal. I mean, dying, of course, we all know can be scary, and it can be painful, physically painful, of course. So dying is a scary portal into bliss. And that's where I was, out in outer space in bliss. And that experience really helped me face what scares me about death and dying. The final experience I want to share with you is an ayahuasca experience. And I really appreciate what's been shared so far from my fellow speakers tonight about their journeys inward and outward vis-a-vis this queen of psychedelics, this amazing and very intelligent plant, or a combination of plants. And so there I was in Brooklyn, here in Brooklyn, in a yoga studio overnight. A Peruvian shaman, Don Diego, had flown in for this ceremony. And we were all sitting side by side, each with our own little, wrapped up in our blankets and on our own sleeping bags, and side by side in our own barf bag in front of us, and all around the walls of this studio. And Don Diego was handing out the, we come up and take our medicine and go sit back down. And he was playing the Icaros, and he was he is a magnificent musician. And I started to journey. And to be honest, I can't remember if this was my first ayahuasca experience or my second. I've only had 3. It was my first or second one. Anyway, I started to journey. And suddenly I had this vision. It seemed real to me. I was no longer in that yoga studio. I was on my deathbed. And I was 92 years old. And the people around me were the people in my life. And we all were very open with each other about what was going on, about my dying. And I was glad about that we could talk about it. And I was struggling. I was in pain. I was in great pain. And I was done. I was done. And I knew it. And I was at peace with being done, except for one thing. I was worried about my wife, Shelley, who's the love of my life. And I turned to her right there, and I said, "Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be okay without me?" And she said, "I'm fine. Don't worry. Let go." So with that, I did. And I breathed my last breath with great relief. The next thing I knew, I was someplace else. I was on the other side, waking up. And there was also, this time, again, people around me, but they were the people who had gone, people I'd known in my life who had gone before me. And they were all there around me. And the moment they saw me open my eyes and look at them, they burst into applause and say, "Hey, welcome, and good job, good job." And what they meant, and I'm almost embarrassed to share this with you right now because it seems so, I don't know, what they meant, they didn't mean a good job about dying, they meant a good job about living. They're saying, that was terrific. What a journey you had, all those 92 years. We were watching, each one of us as we passed over, we were watching, and you, what a magnificent life you led. Fantastic. Good job. And the next thing I knew, I was back in the yoga studio and hearing people vomiting all around me. And so all these experiences have helped me face dying and death. I'm still, to be honest, I'm still scared to death of dying. I love this life. It still spooks me. But maybe not as much as I would have been without these three experiences. And I noticed that as I get older, things call to me. And one thing that calls to me is what you see right behind me, nature herself. I feel like, I mean, here I am in Brooklyn, New York, which is one of the most unnatural places on the planet. But I wanted to like get this as a wall hanging recently because it was just, it spoke to me because I find myself called to nature more and more. And sure enough, in this scene, I didn't realize it when I bought it, but you know, you can walk right into, can you see it here? You can walk right into the forest, and sure enough, in the distance is the light. And I didn't realize that when I bought it, but it's like going into the light. It calls to me. So I'm still scared of scared to death of dying, but I'm using that. I'm using that fear to help scare me to life. Carlos Castaneda is a novelist, and he wrote these books where the main character was Don Juan, and Don Juan was a shaman, and he taught about keeping your death like a being, like an essence, like an entity, over your left shoulder as an advisor. And that really struck me, and I've tried to do that. So these days, when I'm like hanging out with Shelley, my wife, and we're talking about the future and planning things, and planning what we want to do and the traveling we want to do, and the conversation turns to, yeah, well, that trip sounds a little expensive, and it's going to take a lot of time, and there's this and there's that. I hear over my left shoulder, remember me? And then I think, okay, maybe we'll travel this year. Maybe we won't put it off. Death is a good advisor. It tells me, do it now, because you never know when I'm coming. So I found that for me, death is a tripped out teacher. And that's what I wanted to share with you tonight.
Thank you very much, Charley. Before I let you go, you just recently wrote a book, so I'd like for you to take a minute or two to sort of plug your book.
Listening to Ecstasy, the Transformative Power of MDMA, is the tale of how my wife and I entered a forbidden world in the early 2000s of drug users here in New York City, and found that world to be enchanting. and opened up our lives at the time, to our great surprise and delight, to friendship and fun and freedom. And the book is also my coming out of the closet story about using psychedelics and being a psychonaut all my adult life. And there's a section in it about building the community. It's also a memoir about my life and connecting the counterculture of the 60s to the culture now, and the psychedelic renaissance now, and the burner culture now. And it's about also like what I've been talking about here today, about the aging process. And there's a chapter called Senior High, where I talk about how MDMA in particular has helped me navigate from middle age to senior, to old age. And there's also a chapter at the end, a guide to safe use, how to minimize the risks, maximize the benefits of MDMA. So it's all that. It's an accumulation of all from what I learned. I found out MDMA, I did it 70 times and so far, and it was teaching me a lot. So I decided to listen and take dictation and write it out. So that's where the
Cool.
book.
So where can people get it?
You can get it wherever books are sold. Yeah, you can go to the Simon and Schuster website. You could go to the Amazon website and punch in "Listening to Ecstasy."
Thank you for joining us. This has been season 4, episode 7 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. I'm your host, Bob Cohen. I'd like to thank tonight's speakers, Liana Silvey, Marc Brown, Dara Freire, and Charley Wininger for showing up. Tonight was, as Chris Harrison from The Bachelor says, it was an extra special night. Never seen before, never heard before stories on Ouroboros Story Hour. I'm just so delighted that everybody showed up, and thank you guys for joining on the Zoom call. I really appreciate that. Dara said it best when she talked about gratitude. I have nothing but gratitude for everybody for or everything. Gratitude for everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the live stream, and then we can we can say our goodbyes. So we're off live stream now. Guys, thanks so much. It was great. You really it was brilliant. Liana, thank you, and thanks for staying up so late.
Oh, thank you. I'm okay. I'm like it's the closest to a party night that I have. You know what?
What time is it there? What time is it there?
Almost 3 in the night.
Yep, Liana's calling in from Ibiza, right? Yeah. And then Dara's an hour ahead of us, so I guess it's getting on midnight for you. Do you stay up late, or are you early to bed person, Dara?
I have been working until 12 in the night every day this month. Oh yeah. But thank you so much. Such a beautiful energy and space. Thank you for all the effort to gather us all. Thank you.
Oh, it is so my pleasure. This is kind of like this was another thing I discovered for medicine practice, by the way. I think originally, because people, when you go to the ceremonies, people will sort of like ask you to fill out a form, and they'll always ask you, well, like, well, what are you hoping to accomplish from this? So one of my hopes at the time, and it's actually been manifested, but one of my hopes was to really to meet my writing better in a better space than it had been for the last like 10 or so years. And so, Dara, another thing, I'm writing and getting my poetry published, and I'm working on a couple of books. So it kind of worked out that way. But doing this project was a big surprise, and a brilliant surprise. So yeah.
It has been amazing because you mentioned that you found your place in the retreat, and then you creating a space for others, and it's like so beautiful.
Exactly.
Well, that's what we do, right? I mean, that's the teaching. It's so much about connection, and it's just it's kind of like, to get sort of philosophical. It's sort of like the skepticism I have about the medical model for these medicines. And like you were talking, Dara, you were talking about the science of, the science of the medicine practice. And like, it's really cool to know what neuroreceptors get lit, and, and look at the fMRIs and all that stuff. But the whole point of this is for us to connect, right? It's not to make us good little capitalists. It's not to make us, happy American exploiters, right? Like it's to help us connect with like the whole world, and the people that are closest to us, the people that we oftentimes, sometimes, so I find sometimes the people that I'm closest with are the ones that are the furthest away, and it's like that medicine thing is just, it's helped me like in so many different ways. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I always hate saying goodbye.
The way I put it is, the best thing about the psychedelic community is not the psychedelics, it's the community.